Providing a standard for information. What'd you learn? What does that term mean to you now?
You know, it means so many different things, but what I found interesting was where he ended, which was treat your content assets and your information assets like you treat other assets. As CEOs, as we present our business, we present our financial statements, we present our customer statements, we present a lot of things. We never really look at our content library and we never treat it and value it the way that we should, because that becomes such a key asset for us going forward. And if we started to we talk about chief content officer, chief information officer, but do they really look at the content architecture, the structure, the database, and the presentation? So for me, that's my first point, is I think it's key that we look at and we think about that differently. The second point is I think that the elevator pitch to me was very simple, very interesting and simple. I like the fact that, you know, we often say, you know, people will say, well, wait a minute, I can't demonstrate ROI for my business, right? Mm-hmm. And you would maybe look at this company and you'd say, well, it's a methodology, it makes it better, it feels good. There's a clear demonstratable ROI in this business. In fact, there's three. There's ROI in terms of sales, in terms of salesmanship. Mm-hmm. There's ROI in terms of efficiency of staff. Mm-hmm. And there's ROI in terms of protection of you know, mm-hmm. from adverse circumstances.
All quantifiable.
Absolutely quantifiable, absolutely business case oriented, and you can draw easy dollar for dollar connection to that number. And for anyone, any CEOs out there, anybody who's running a business who says, well, I can't do it, well, here's a clear case where you can. And in fact, when you stop to think about it, it becomes a compelling story. It's easy to say to someone, you saw this piece of paper, now you see this piece of paper. If you know, we're telling you we've got proven data that shows you're a much better salesperson with this than this. Your sales chances go up by this percentage. If you don't believe me, don't bother. See, I love, and this is my third point, and this is the one that I would leave with. If you don't believe me, don't bother sales pitch. It's such a fantastic way to sell. If you don't think that content and information are key, if you don't want to protect yourself against downstream liability, if you don't believe that you can increase your salespeople with a better presentation, that your website can be more effective with a better presentation, then don't bother with me. But if you do believe it, give me a call. And what Francis has done is he's taken a business, and again, I really want to explore at some point with him the history of the business, because I think it's fascinating to watch a company that's got 40 years of history that's gone through so many changes. But to be able to boil it down to a very clear, simple, direct message and make that compelling, that's fascinating.
Yeah, and the final point I'll make is the term content architecture. It's a fascinating term when you think about it. I mean, you know me, born and raised by a stonemason. When I think of architects, I think of the guys who designed how you're going to build it. And when you're going to build it and you look at it, things start to make sense. You're like, an architect is smarter than I thought he was because he designed this. You think about content and having an architecture around that, having a methodology that shows you a blueprint of how it works, that's pretty cool. That's a pretty cool thing.
You know, we sit here, we talk about marketing automation, content, web content management, enterprise content management. I mean, there's so information architecture, there's all this stuff, but at the end of the day, content architecture, think about it first. He said it right. If you don't do it well at the beginning, you're not going to do well at the end. And that's and you look at
that is a blueprint.
And you look at so many companies that have been successful, and I tell you, I can't tell you how many CEOs I've run into who have said, I'm just as good as they are. I don't understand why they could sell and we couldn't. Yeah. And the answer at the end of the day was because their content and their information was kept correctly, organized correctly, and done correctly and presented correctly.